Now, this is only a suspension, isn't it? A 6-month delay until those fuel hikes come into play. Will that be enough to put off the Gilets jaunes, or might we see them on the streets of Paris again this weekend?
I think we could well do, because although obviously the rise in fuel taxes was one of the key sources of their objections and their resentment, I think really that was only the tip of an iceberg of popular discontent against Macron's social and economic policy. So I really think, really rather as with the Leave vote in the Brexit referendum, although of course that was about the EU, there were a lot of other simmering issues in the background. So I don't think it will put an end to the protests. It addresses one of the causes, but it does so temporarily. You know, it is a temporary freeze for 6 months. The question will then be, you know, what happens next? Because this was a fiscal lever that the government pulled to try and influence, to change the way that people consume fuel in France, and it hasn't worked. So it's at best it's a temporary fix for one of the questions that the movement's about. But I think it's not going to be enough to stem the protests. No.
And he's managed to stand his ground in the face of other national protests here in France, most notably the SNCF, the train drivers' strike. Is there a risk this will be seen as a weakness on the part of Emmanuel Macron?
Well, arguably, he himself picked a fight with the train drivers' union as a kind of emblematic union in a similar way that Thatcher kind of picked a fight with the miners in the 1980s. I think that he will look weak for standing down, for climbing down. Partly because he himself said that he wouldn't climb down, and that to climb down in the face of street protest would be bad for the country. So he's already said that. He's only listening because he's been forced to listen, because the police actually can't contain this kind of level of violent demonstration across the nation. So he's been forced into it.
And we've still had no public statement or appearance from the president since he returned from the G20 in Argentina on Sunday. What do you read into that?
Partly it's his presidential style. You know, he likes to remain aloof to a certain extent above the fray of politics. I mean, I suppose we have seen an appearance in the sense that, you know, we did see that very mediatized visit to the Arc de Triomphe and his, his inspection of the damage there. So there's been an appearance, but not a statement. So he's delegated that to Edouard Philippe.
Oliver Davies, thank you very much.